Imagine this. It's late at night, and you're lying in bed, staring at the ceiling. The room is silent, but your mind is anything but. A single thought refuses to let go. A moment from your past. Something you should have said but didn't. Something you did but wish you hadn't. It plays in your mind like a broken record, each replay deepening the sting. You tell yourself it's over, that the past is untouchable. And yet somehow, it still has its hands wrapped around your throat. Regret. It is a paradox wrapped in a wound. A feeling that serves no practical purpose. After all, the past cannot be rewritten. Yet it refuses to fade. Unlike fear, which prepares us for the future, or anger, which drives us to action, regret seems to drag us backward, chaining us to a life that no longer exists. Why does the human mind torment itself with visions of what could have been? Why does it force us to suffer for choices we can never unmake? Some say regret is a teacher, a necessary pain that sharpens our wisdom. Others say it is the ghost of an unlived life, a cruel mirage that makes us ache for possibilities that never came to be. But what if both are wrong? What if regret is neither a teacher nor a ghost, but something far more insidious, something that distorts our very perception of reality? If you could strip regret down to its core, what would you find? Is it guilt, loss, a longing for control? Or is it something deeper, something woven into the very fabric of human consciousness? Perhaps regret is not just a feeling but a trap, a psychological snare, carefully hidden within the way we experience time, selfhood, and meaning. But if it is a trap, who set it? And more importantly, how do we escape? Regret is a wound that never fully heals. We prod at it, reopening it time and time again, as if pain itself holds the key to redemption. But why? What force compels us to relive our worst moments, to resurrect old failures, to dwell in lives that were never lived? To understand regret, we must first understand time. The human mind is obsessed with time, not as it truly exists, but as we experience it. Unlike animals who exist in an eternal present, we are haunted by the past and burdened by the future. Nietzsche called this our curse of historical consciousness, the relentless ability to look back and forward, never fully at peace with where we are. This is the root of regret. We compare what happened with what could have happened, and in that gap, suffering is born. But here's the hidden problem. The past we regret, it's an illusion. Schopenhauer argued that the past is like a dream, something the mind constructs, not something that still exists. Yet we cling to it as if it were real, as if our past selves could be summoned and rewritten. This is the cruel joke of regret. We agonize over a world that no longer exists, tormenting ourselves with choices that are no longer ours to make. Psychologists call this counterfactual thinking, our brain's tendency to create alternate versions of reality. If only I had done this instead. What if I had taken that opportunity? These thoughts seem rational, but they are fundamentally deceptive. Why? Because the self you are today is not the self who made those choices. The person who regrets is not the same person who acted. Carl Jung believed that regret is a symptom of psychic fragmentation, a war between the different versions of ourselves that exist within us. One part of us clings to the past, refusing to let go, while another tries to move forward. And in this war, we become trapped. But if regret is a war, then what are we truly fighting? Is it guilt? Is it loss? Or is it something much deeper? The fear that our choices define us. Regret is not passive. It does not merely exist in the background of our minds. It shapes us, often in ways we fail to see. It dictates our decisions, rewires our self-perception, and distorts the way we interpret reality itself. The most dangerous thing about regret is not the pain it brings, but the invisible ways it alters who we become. Consider this. Every time we dwell on regret, we reinforce the belief that the past holds power over us. We convince ourselves that a single misstep, a single wrong turn, has altered our destiny beyond repair. This is the illusion of the irreversible self, the idea that we are permanently defined by our past actions, that we are bound to the consequences of choices we can never undo. But what if this isn't true? Neuroscience suggests that our identities are far more fluid than we think. The brain is in a constant state of rewiring, neurons forging new pathways, memories shifting in response to present experiences. What we remember about the past is not an objective truth, but a reconstruction. And yet, we treat regret as if it is final, as if it is carved into the very structure of who we are. The real danger of regret is that it can make us afraid to choose again. Studies on decision-making show that individuals who ruminate on past regrets tend to become more risk-averse, more hesitant, more likely to settle for lives that feel safe rather than fulfilling. Regret paralyzes. It convinces us that we are unworthy of second chances, that a single wrong turn means we no longer deserve to reach our destination. But perhaps the most insidious effect of regret is how it blinds us to the hidden victories within our failures. The path we regret not taking? It is an illusion, built on assumptions, on imagined outcomes, on a version of reality that never existed. And yet, we compare our real life to this phantom life, always believing that it would have been better, that we would have been happier. But what if the opposite is true? What if regret is not a reminder of what we lost, but a distortion of what we gained without realizing it? In the midst of your inner turmoil, a sudden question arises. What if you could reframe regret as a tool for transformation, rather than a chain of sorrow? The rebellion begins not with a loud declaration, but as a quiet, resolute defiance deep within your soul. It is the moment when you decide that regret is not a final verdict, but a call to action, a dark mirror revealing the potential for reinvention. Imagine, for a moment, the lives of those who have shattered the shackles of their past. Think of Viktor Frankl, who transformed profound suffering into a testament of human resilience, or the countless unsung heroes who turned personal failures into stepping stones toward greatness. Their stories whisper a radical truth. You are not doomed to be defined by your regrets. Instead, every misstep is a compass, pointing toward the hidden opportunities of change. Now, envision standing at a crossroads, where the familiar path of self-recrimination splits into a daring new direction. What if, instead of succumbing to the weight of what might have been, you began to question the very essence of regret? In doing so, you challenge the ingrained narrative that your past mistakes are permanent imprints on your identity. Instead, you recognize them as transient experiences, lessons etched in time, but not chains that bind you. This rebellion is not an escape from reality, but an embrace of it. It is the counterintuitive realization that to break free, you must confront the uncomfortable truths about yourself and then choose to rise above them. Every decision you make becomes an act of defiance, a rejection of the idea that your past can dictate your future. By reclaiming control over your narrative, you transform regret into a source of power, a catalyst for continuous evolution. Could this be the turning point? The moment when you no longer allow regret to paralyze you, but use it as the launchpad for a more courageous, authentic self? As you stand on the threshold of this new perspective, you feel the stirring of empowerment, a call to rebel against your internal limitations and craft a destiny defined by possibility rather than remorse. And then, something shifts. A realization, so simple yet so profound, emerges from the depths of your mind. Regret was never about the past. It was never about a choice, an event, or a single moment that you wish you could reclaim. No. Regret was always about identity. You were never mourning a lost opportunity. You were mourning a lost version of yourself. The person you could have been, the life you could have lived. But here's the truth that regret doesn't want you to see. That version of you? It was never real. It was a shadow, a phantom built from assumptions, illusions, and wishful thinking. You grieve for something that never existed. The greatest trick regret ever played was convincing you that there was only one right path, that your missteps led you away from it, and that now you are irreversibly lost. But the truth? There was never just one path. There was only the path you walked, the path you are still walking. Every decision, every mistake, every moment of hesitation, it all led to this version of you, the only version that is real. And once you see this, regret begins to dissolve. You realize that regret is only powerful when you resist it, when you fight against the past as if it still has a hold on you. But the moment you stop fighting, when you accept that the past is nothing more than a story, a lesson, a faded photograph, you reclaim your power. You understand that the past has only the meaning you choose to give it. Maybe your regrets aren't mistakes. Maybe they were necessary. Maybe they carved you into the person who is now capable of seeing this truth. And so, a final question remains. If regret has shaped you, but does not define you, then what will? What will you choose to carry forward? What story will you write from this moment on? Because now you see, regret was never the enemy. It was the teacher, waiting for you to listen.